What's up, everybody? This is Pill Talk Podcast with me, Dr. Bartu. I have a special guest on, a good friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Erin Clay. She's a pharmacist. She comes from Tallahassee, Florida. Went to school at FAMU Pharmacy School. She currently is a diabetes medical science liaison, a MSL, with Santify out of the upper state of South Carolina. So, if you don't mind, let's welcome our guest, Dr. Erin Clay. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dr. Bartu?
I'm good. I'm good, man.
Good.
I'm happy to have you on as a guest today. This was a long time coming, so
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time to be with me today. And before we jump in, we're going to talk a little bit about your background, how
hmm
you got to where you are with being a pharmacist, and how did you get into that field? Because everybody knows pharmacists as being a retail pharmacist, such as myself, coming to the big chain and just getting their maintenance
Yeah.
meds.
Absolutely. Well, I guess for me, pharmacy, how I got into it, my junior year of high school, I was able to attend a biomedical symposium. And at the symposium, there were all, different types of medical professions there. Kind of you could walk around and go to the different booths and find out about different opportunities. And this one booth caught my attention because the then former dean of student affairs kind of stopped me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about pharmacy?" And he kind of went into why. And the one thing that caught my attention was that as a pharmacist, you could pursue so many different career paths. There were so many different roles that as pharmacists we could do. And so that, just caught my attention. And I thought, hey, this might be worth looking into. And I think the rest is history. I ended up going to FAMU College of Pharmacy and graduated with my PharmD degree from there. And, I think it stuck with me what he said that we could do so many different opportunities, or we could do so many different things. We had so many different career paths that we could take. So I just kind of started thinking, what could I do? And I think how I ended up here in pharma just is kind of by happenstance, actually, initially. But I kind of went into being a clinical pharmacist first, and then ended up here along the way. So I think that that's kind of the story behind that.
All right, all right. All right, so let's break it down, get into the career path or that got you to pharmacy or got you into
Mhm.
pharmacy, and then tell people a little bit about your career, right? Because you did something that most people haven't done coming into the pharmacy field, and that's
Mhm.
jumped right over the retail aspect of it. You went
Mhm.
straight into like clinical.
Yeah.
Now you're a medical liaison, so
Yeah.
you're able
Yeah.
to speak on the different fields of pharmacy. So let's start a little bit about the education wise. FAMU, what made
Yeah.
you choose that college?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, when I went to the symposium, man, they were there, and the one that stopped me and kind of gave me or dropped the knowledge on us being able to do different things in pharmacy was from FAMU. I mean, he was the dean of student affairs at the time, and he just caught my attention. And wanting to go to HBCU, and then a top producing HBCU of African American doctors. Pharmacy program was a very prestigious program. So I think that, talking to him and then having the opportunity to get a scholarship there just kind of all came together and made sense to go to FAMU College of Pharmacy. So I think that's why I chose FAMU.
Definitely, definitely. That was good that that guy was able to, or that person was able to just reach out to you and give you some of that knowledge to make you want to pursue this career definitely in a better field. All right, so
Absolutely.
you finished with that. So what was your first job inside the pharmacy field? And let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah. So after graduation, like most pharmacists, it's like, what's next? You got license, and now you got to find a real job. So I kind of, like I said, I didn't want to do retail, so I was thinking, what could I do? And so I started applying to different hospitals to be a clinical pharmacist. And so after doing that, I landed a couple of interviews, and then I was able to land my first clinical pharmacist role. And, was really excited about that, nervous, but excited at the same time,
Hmm.
because it just gave a different spin on being a pharmacist, right? Like you said, a lot of people think of pharmacists, working at, the big box. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go into the hospital and give being a clinical pharmacist a try. And so when I got there, I definitely liked it. I loved the patient interaction. And I think, as a clinical pharmacist, you're really there to, kind of be a sounding board for the physicians to help them care for their patients. You provide, drug information for the physicians and the
Hmm.
nurses. You assess the drug order entries for appropriateness, and you profile those into the patient's profile. You really are just able to engage in dialogue with your colleagues around different treatment options for patients. And so you really are that person in that inpatient setting that really gets to help, tailor the patient's drug regimen while they're there in the hospital during their stay. So.
Man, that's great. That's great. Um, so it's very interprofessional. Sorry about that. I just dropped my book, but that's interprofessional because that's one of the things that the retail doesn't really get to do, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Um, we basically take the order from the physician and
mhm.
then just fill it. So you were
Yeah.
actually able to, were you able to do rounds or really communicate with the physicians and help with the orders?
Yeah, so we had certain pharmacists on different floors, so we each kind of took a floor, and you kind of when you take that floor, it's almost like you take that badge of honor for that floor to kind of know what's happening on that particular floor that you're serving, whether that be with the nurses or the physicians, the patients themselves. So yeah, you really are a part of that interdisciplinary team, who gets to kind of round and help make decisions on the patients that are there in the hospital. So yeah, absolutely. You really just kind of maximize that pharmaceutical care for those patients while they're there in the hospital. So you are considered a part of that team. And it kind of goes back to when we're on rotations, right? And we're doing
Hmm.
our internal medicine rotation where you're part of that team, and you really just get to round and follow those patients throughout their hospital stay. And I think it's rewarding because, obviously the patients come in there because they're sick. And so when they're in the hospital, all of our job as healthcare professionals is to help make them feel better. And so you just feel a sense of reward when you follow that patient throughout their stay, and you finally get to let them know that they're going home. So.
Man, that's great. That's great. Um, that's amazing that you were able to do that. Like just seeing it from the outside, like you're really practicing at the top of your license right there. You're not just knowing
Yeah.
what the meds are and just giving it out. You're really using your knowledge base that you learned at FAMU and
Mhm.
taking that and really like understanding the patient, understanding like what their needs are and serving them till they get better to get them outside of the hospital. That's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. So you did that for a while, right? What was
Hmm.
the next thing that you stepped into if you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I did that, and I love being a clinical pharmacist, but always in the back of my head, during school, we had just started to kind of get exposure to this thing called industry, right? And just
Mhm.
hearing a few people talk about the world of pharma and industry. So that was always something that was kind of in the back of my head too. So like I said, it was kind of by happen chance. I got an opportunity. That's the power of networking, right? And just kind of letting people know you're here, you're willing to kind of experience new opportunities. And so I got an opportunity to kind of work with a pharma company, and I was a medical information specialist. And so I interviewed for this position. Obviously no previous experience in
Mhm.
pharma, but I was able to interview, and I got the position. And so as a medical information specialist, I was able to really just, there was a particular therapeutic area, and you just really dive into that, and your job is to answer questions on that particular drug, from healthcare providers providers who may call in and want you to kind of tell them more about the product, or they may have a specific question. And so you answer that question, they may write you, you may give a written response back. So it really is, as the name describes, a medical information specialist. So that was my first taste of actually being in pharma and on that side. And I'm like, I kind of like this. So yeah, so that's what I did for a little while. And so I always figured, okay, this is nice. But I saw that what the former dean of student affairs at FAMU said in terms of not having to stick to one particular career path. As a pharmacist, I started to see that unfold before my eyes because, I had just practiced as a clinical pharmacist for a couple of years. And then now here I am in a completely different arena, but doing something just as fulfilling. So that was a really good opportunity.
That's good. That's good. So back up a little bit. How are you able to find that job? Like, since that's not the traditional route that a pharmacist goes into, and if someone is looking to
Yeah.
get into that, how can they search that or get into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So, keyword there, networking. I think we have like, honestly, that's really the biggest thing. LinkedIn is really big now. So if you go on LinkedIn, you can follow pharmaceutical companies. If you don't know a lot about what the opportunities are in pharma, find someone who already is in pharma, reach out to them and just start asking questions. Google is also your friend. So if you are thinking, oh man, what are the opportunities in the pharmaceutical industry? Start with the website. I mean, there's pharmaceutical companies. I mean, you have Merck. I work for Sanofi. You have Pfizer. You have Bristol Myers Squibb. So you could start researching these companies, go to their websites, see the roles and opportunities that are available, and then furthermore, reach out to other people who have already, pursued that same role or works for that company and ask them about their experience. And like I said, networking is the most powerful tool because, if people don't know what you're interested in, they can't think of you when opportunities come up. So I would say to just continue to network and be curious. I think that's the biggest thing is if you don't know something, to ask and to be curious. And that's kind of what led me, down that path to even being able to get the opportunity as a medical information specialist is just kind of continuously researching and being curious. And then boom, there was an opportunity and someone thought about me and I was able to interview for it and I landed the role. So just really being curious.
That's great. That's great. There's a couple of things you said in there just now that I want to like make sure people didn't just hear and let it go, right?
Mhm.
And the first thing is networking and like how that was able to bring to you a career change and within your own field and the power of that. So
Yeah.
do you have a network that you currently building now, or that's just something that you continuously do?
I continuously build my network. I have friends who I went to pharmacy school with who are doing big, great things that I always stay connected to, always try to stay connected to. But building a new network too, I think LinkedIn is a really powerful tool. I've actually had built networks through people reaching out to me, wanting to actually just meet with me. And I've learned so much from them. They were wanting to meet with me to like learn from me. And I'm like, wow, I need to add you to my network as well because you're connected in different ways as well. And I think it's nothing wrong with, networking intentionally and like, trying to connect with people who are different from you, because that's kind of the beauty of networking and being able to kind of explore different opportunities. So for me, to answer the question, I'm continuously building my network. I think, a solid foundation was started in pharmacy school, having those advocates and supports and professors, kind of continuing to stay in touch with, the professors that kind of taught you, stay in touch with some of the professors who you rotated with, some of your preceptors. That's kind of a solid foundation for a networking kind of opportunities, but then you continue to build that. And I think the strongest assets of a great networker is someone who continuously expands their network. So I'm always looking to expand my network for sure. And outside of pharmacists as well, because, we kind of have to diversify. so
Definitely.
continuously expanding. Yeah.
Definitely. So You got into the pharma. All right. You got into the pharma, and then you got out of it, and then you went into another career field, a career thing
Yeah,
of a pharmacy. What's this
yeah.
next step that you had took?
Well, and so I think with everything, sometimes life happens, right? So I am a mom, I'm a wife, and a professional, and so my husband got an opportunity to, kind of. He's also a pharmacist, so he got an opportunity that was most pharma companies are in the Northeast. So I was at the actual pharma company. There are a few field-based positions, but there are some, but the opportunity didn't present itself for me to have a field-based position where my husband was at, where he got his opportunity. So I actually went back, to clinical pharmacy. And that is the beauty of our network as well, is that pharmacy kind of is a small, tight-knit community. So when you leave somewhere, leave it well, do it well, and do things to where people will be happy to have you back, right? So I was able to re-enter the realm of being a clinical pharmacist, which, like I said, I always enjoyed that. But something about being in pharma, I knew at that point, once I did leave, that I was trying to come back. I was going to try to come back. It would be maybe in a different capacity, but that's when I knew that pharma, I was like, there's something about this that I really like. So I knew I would try to come back to it in a different capacity. But like I said, I knew that at that moment, it wasn't the right time. So I ended up getting a field-based position at a pharma company, and so that was on the commercial side though, and I enjoyed that. I mean, it's kind of a different take on kind of what I was doing as a medical information specialist. Have a different set of products, and I'm actually helping to educate some of the HCPs on, or the healthcare providers on those particular products that I had. And I enjoyed that. But I knew that for me, once I got back into pharma, if I was going to do a field based position, I wanted to be a medical science liaison. And that was the goal, even in taking that position. And so I took that position to basically stair step and to get to where I am today.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, Break down a little bit what's the difference between the field position and the
Uh-huh.
corporate position, and
Yeah.
so that people can know that what the difference is.
Yeah. So I would say for the in-house, when you're in the, at corporate or in-house, as they would say, there's different roles that you have that are obviously different from the field-based position, because the field-based position, I would like to think of it as like the eyes and ears, right? So you kind of are on the front lines, you kind of are seeing some of the things that are happening, and you can relay those things back to in-house, back to corporate, and so there's definitely different functions within a pharmaceutical company. You kind of have the medical side and you have the commercial side. So that's one thing. So when I was in the field before, I was on the commercial side, and in my current role, I'm on the medical side. So, in the medical affairs. So really, my responsibility now is kind of helping with that strategy, right? With that medical strategy from a field facing position, being able to kind of give those insights from the field, because I talk to a lot of those key opinion leaders, and so I can kind of give some of that feedback back in-house, to kind of apply some of that strategy and to help with that strategy. So I would say from the field, you really do have a really important role to be the eyes and the ears for those who are back at corporate.
Okay, okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
So the medical liaison position, that's
yeah.
where we at now, right?
That's where we are now. Yeah, yeah.
All right. I don't know. Speak a little bit about that again so that the people can understand what's going on with that and
Yeah,
what's the difference
yeah.
of it.
Yeah. So, as a medical science liaison, it is a field based medical position, but it is on the medical affairs side. And so, as a medical science liaison, you can be in different therapeutic areas. I mean, from oncology to diabetes, to cardiovascular, there's different types of therapeutic areas. But the ultimate goal is to really be able to be that scientific base for the provider. So you basically are having scientific discussions with these key opinion leaders, these key thought leaders who are thought to be at the top of the therapeutic area that they kind of are in. They're kind of thought to be those top thought leaders in that area. So essentially, you're meeting with these thought leaders to kind of talk through scientific data. You're there to really fill any educational gaps that they may have about your products that you have, to talk about clinical trial data for those products, to really just answer any questions that they may have on the data. So you're really scientific. So as a medical science liaison, you are really talking science. You're really getting into the background of some of the research and the papers and the trial designs and kind of what those key opinion leaders thoughts are on those things. And so those are the insights that you're gathering so that you can kind of take those back. And some of them may be actionable, some of them may just be good to know, but it really is to kind of give you an idea of where this person is. And why it's important is because these are people who other people listen to these people. Other people listen to these thought leaders. They are thought to be, they're the way that they use things to diagnose or to the standard of care, the things that they do, they may do it first. So people really look to them for advice on how to treat their patients. So you really just want to kind of be in tune to what's going on. So it's a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of just really kind of being able to have those deep conversations with the people that you're connecting with. So that's kind of the role and the responsibilities that I have now. Whereas, on the commercial side, you definitely are doing some of the same things, but you may have a little bit more targeted audience, and you are really just trying to, really educate them on the products that you have. And at the time where maybe they have deeper questions, that's when you can then refer them to a medical science liaison so that they can really get into the science of it.
Oh man, that's great. That was one of the, I think, courses in pharmacy school I probably struggled with, was diving into those trials.
I know. It's definitely, but it gets kind of fun when you are looking at some of the trials of the products that your company makes, right? I
Yeah.
think that's when it kind of gets fun, and when you're able to do, these disease state awareness programs on, different therapeutic areas that are important to your key opinion leaders or
Mhm.
important to how ultimately they're going to treat their patients. So it just kind of gets a little exciting, but yeah, it can be a little daunting sometimes, but it's pretty
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it is. Like once you get used to it and get the understanding and actually know what's happening with the numbers and why the trial was formed the way it
Yeah,
was and the
yeah,
results that you kind of get back to it. That's
yeah,
great. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Um, any words of wisdom that you want to give someone that's looking out right now and be like, you know what, I want to get into the pharmacy field and don't want to become a retail pharmacist.
But let's shout out our retail pharmacists, right?
Let's
Like we
shout
have,
us out.
like you said, let's shout us out. Let's shout us out. Yes, let's shout you guys out because we do. We need us all, right? Um, but I would say, and honestly, even if you're in retail now, you're like, all right, I've paid my dues. Like now I'm ready to, I'm ready to move on. My advice would just to always be curious and to be a lifelong learner, to always look to have transferable skills, because I think when you break down what you do on the day to day as a retail pharmacist, I mean, it really is important, and it's a lot, and it takes the art of communication. And so I think this just really writing down your transferable skills. And when you write those skills down, you figure out which ones do you really enjoy. Like if you love the communication part of those transferable skills that you've written down, you really like that, then now you have to decide, okay, what else can I do with that would kind of bring me joy? And you just go from there, and you just kind of really just trying to like structure and web out things that bring you joy and those skills that you have. And a lot of times it's the skills that come effortlessly that will probably end up bringing you the most joy because it's your gift, right? You don't really
Yeah.
have to work as hard for that. So when you write that down, I mean, sometimes writing is power because you see it on paper and you're like, okay, now what? So then you just go from there and you just figure out, okay, what can I do where I can use this skill? And that's where I think, those words that that were told to me when I was at that symposium really do come back even to this day and resonate, that we could choose so many different career paths. I mean, we could touch like really every field as a pharmacist. And
Mhm.
sometimes some of it we don't even know, from pharmacy law to retail to clinical to, working in the pharmaceutical industry. But then once you get into the pharmaceutical industry, there's different things within the industry, right? So
Yeah.
I think just kind of being curious and figuring out what your skill set is, and then going from there and figuring out, okay, so what can I do with this? And I think our profession as a pharmacist is one of the best to be able to do that, because you really can continuously reinvent yourself. Like I've worked as a clinical pharmacist, I've worked as a medical information specialist, I've worked on the commercial side, and now in pharma again on the medical side and medical affairs. So it really just goes to show how true that is, and how true it holds that as a pharmacist you really can choose so many different career paths, and sometimes all at the same time. I mean, hey, you could be a consultant pharmacist and still
Yeah.
work retail, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's just the power of being able to do so many different things, and sometimes all at once. So just really honing in on what you feel like your skill set is would be some of my advice.
That's dope. That's a lot of great advice right there.
Mhm.
Um, with you, it seems like you got your career going amazing. You said you got a husband, two
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
So another great question I have for you, right, is how's your work-life balance? Trying to make sure that you have a peace of mind and make sure that you get your job done exceptionally well.
Yeah, whew, that's a good one. Especially, it's good because especially like, with the role I have now, it would be easy to blur the lines. But one thing that I've always really tried to do to have that work-life balance is to have a work phone and a personal phone, and really to like adhere to those things. Work is work and personal is personal, and to put my work phone away at the end of the day, so that I can make sure I'm separating that, because it really is easy, especially when you are working from home or you're working in the field and you have all these devices and you're linked 24/7 to your email or to being able to do a meeting or respond. And so for me, it's just been really, really important to separate that. And what's helped me is to have that work phone and the personal phone, so that I can really try to, not blur those lines and keep it separate. So that's work for me, is having a personal phone. And that work phone is only given out for work, and the personal is only for personal. And so keeping that pretty clear has actually helped me, because I'm able to literally put my work phone down and walk away. And I'll be honest, there's been times where I've walked away and the next morning I've gotten some text messages and emails, and they all came in after 6, 7 o'clock. And so, it would be easy if I had my phone, right, to like try to respond to it. But, I've tried to really try to separate that out.
Man, that's actually a good bit of information to take right there on a way to separate the work and from the work from play, right?
Mm.
So I might have to use that with myself.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely helps.
So how do you relax? Like, what do you do? Do you like to go golfing? Do you play sports? How do you relax
Yeah.
with all this, well, during the COVID and everything as well?
Yeah, yeah. So spending time with my family. Like I said, my husband and I, we have two amazing little boys, 4 and almost 2. So spending time with them always helps re-energize and recharge me. And so I love spending time with them. I love shopping, even though there's nowhere to go right now. Online shopping has always been my thing. So I still love doing that. And that just, I don't know, sometimes it just makes me so happy. Just like surfing the internet and surfing the sites. I like listening to podcasts, but I think more than anything, just spending time with family and friends and really just kind of taking it all in, and being with them. Our kids are true comedians and they crack me up. So I can just spend a day with them, and they keep me going. But yeah, spending time with family and friends, and just kind of, especially during COVID, just kind of being still,
Yeah.
we're used to going, 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 but in this pandemic, we've definitely just had to be still. We've had to be still, and it's probably been good. So,
Man, that's great that you was able to see the silver lining within the pandemic of
yeah.
taking this time to be still, spending time with your
Hmm.
family, and separating
Yeah.
that work phone from your play phone, and being able to
Hmm.
be having that work life balance. That's great. That's
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's been good.
All right. So you are right now in your career doing an amazing job, right? Where do you see yourself going 5 years from now? Like, what's the next step for you?
Ooh, good question. Well, I kind of bucket it out into like kind of immediate goals and like long-term goals. So I would say for me, some of my immediate goals would probably be to become a board certified medical affairs specialist, and then to also do some certifications in diabetes because that's the therapeutic area that I'm working in. So kind of work on some certifications there. And then long term, man, I just think the sky's the limit. I've always tried to not limit myself and to really just kind of think outside of the box. So, hey, whether that's being the global medical head one day at someone's company, um, who knows? The sky's the limit. But I think continuing to hone in and craft my skills in my current role for sure is something I want to do. And then continuing to network, like I said, because that sky is the limit and who knows where that'll take me and what that ultimate role is. I don't know today, but who knows, 5 years from now, where I could be and what I could be doing. So I'm just going to say, hey, the sky is the limit, and let's see what happens.
Man, that's dope. That's dope. We already can tell by your track record that wherever you aim to be, you're going to get there. So we want to see you 5 years from now back on here telling us that you are the CEO, the president of some major corporation. You know what I'm saying?
I
Enjoying
like
your
it. I like
network.
it.
That's what's up.
Absolutely. Let's speak it into existence.
Hey, let's do it. So, for all the viewers that's listening, right? If they want to get in contact
Mhm,
with Dr. Clay, how can they reach you?
mhm.
What's your Instagram, social media, all your handles? So if somebody
Yeah.
want to reach out to you
Yeah.
and join your network.
Sure. So anyone can find me on LinkedIn. So Erin Clay, or you can find me on Instagram. My handle is RX underscore beauty 22. And the same is for Facebook. So you can find me there as well. I think all the different social media outlets. So the main thing, but you can definitely find me on LinkedIn as Erin Clay. So that's how you can find me.
Man, thank you. Thank you for coming on, Dr. Clay, for, presenting your actual career to us and letting people follow your career so that someone out here listening can be like, you know what, I want to join the pharmaceutical field and I want to go the other route. And now they have a way
Yeah,
to go about it and they have a path. So we appreciate you. Thank you for coming on Pill Talk Podcast, where we give out a daily dose to inspire, motivate others to live at their full potential.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank